The stars were quiet in the outer rim. It was the kind of silence that seemed eternal, as if no one had ever disturbed this part of the galaxy. But hidden among the drifting asteroids and shadows of dead moons, a fleet of alien raiders waited. Their ships were long, sharp, and covered in black armor. They were not soldiers of a proud empire. They were hunters, scavengers, and killers who thrived by attacking weak ships that wandered too far from safe routes. The galaxy called them the Vare Coalition, though in truth, they were just a mix of outcasts who shared one thing: greed. On the bridge of the flagship, Commander Krell leaned forward in his chair. His long, insect-like mandibles clicked with excitement as his crew tracked the incoming target on their scanners. A lone human vessel, reported one of his officers. Slow, unguarded, just as the merchants told us. Krell's mandibles twitched. He had heard of humans before. Everyone had. They were new to the galactic stage, barely a few decades out of their home system. Their colonies were small, their fleets limited. Compared to the great empires, humans were seen as nothing more than an ambitious young species. Bold, yes. Curious, yes. But weak. Finally, Krell said, "We will show these upstart mammals what happens when they step into real space." His crew hissed with approval. Around them, 20 raider ships held position, hidden among the asteroids. Their jamming devices hummed quietly, ready to cut off communications. Escape lanes had been sealed. The trap was perfect. As the human ship approached, Krell studied its design. It was not a warship. It looked like a transport vessel, boxy, with only a few weapon ports. He felt no fear. "Prepare the message," Krell ordered. "Humans are weak, but let us give them the illusion of choice." The raiders laughed. They had done this hundreds of times before. The pattern never changed. An unsuspecting ship entered the trap, the raiders surrounded it, and the prey surrendered. Those who resisted were destroyed, their wrecks left as warnings. But this time their prey was human. The human ship, dauntless, glided into the ambush zone. Inside, its crew went about their duties calmly, unaware, or perhaps pretending to be unaware, of the danger around them. Captain Elias Ward stood on the command deck, a tall figure with sharp eyes that never seemed to rest. His ship was not the largest in the fleet nor the most powerful, but it carried something far more dangerous, a crew of humans trained to survive against impossible odds. "Sir," said Lieutenant Vega, monitoring the scanners, "we've picked up movement in the asteroid field, too organized to be natural." Ward didn't flinch. He had expected this. Traveling through this sector meant danger. The Vare raiders were notorious for their traps. Many ships had fallen. To them. But Ward was not like most captains. "Raise shields," he said calmly. "Weapons on standby. Don't fire until I say." The crew obeyed, their hands moving quickly across controls. There was no fear in their eyes, only focus. They had trained for this moment. The raiders struck. Dozens of ships powered up their weapons at once, surrounding the Dauntless. A sharp, crackling voice filled the human bridge as Krell's message came through. "Human vessel, you are surrounded. Your escape routes are cut off. Surrender immediately, and perhaps we will spare your crew." On the raider flagship, Krell leaned back in satisfaction. He imagined the human captain trembling, begging, agreeing to give up without a fight. That was how it always went. But the voice that came back was not trembling. It was calm. Cold. "This is Captain Ward of the Dauntless, the human replied. "You should have chosen another target." For a moment silence filled the raider bridge. Krell's mandibles clicked in confusion. Did the human not understand? Did he not see the 20 ships aimed at him? "Arrogant mammal," Krell hissed. "Destroy his shields, tear his ship apart." The first volley of fire lit up the void. Bright plasma bolts streaked across space, smashing into the Dauntless's shields. Energy crackled around the hull, shaking the human ship. Onboard comma crew. Members held their stations with steady hands. The shields groaned, but they held. "Shields at 87%, reported Vega. Ward nodded. "Good. Let them think they're winning." The human ship didn't return fire. Not yet. Instead, it drifted, as if struggling. To the raiders, it looked like weakness. They cheered, certain victory was near. But Ward's eyes never left the tactical display. He could see the raiders' formations the way they spread out to encircle him. It was a net designed to trap helpless prey. But a net could be broken if you knew where the strands were weakest. Helm, Ward said quietly. Bring us 5 degrees starboard, slow roll. Let them close in. The Dauntless moved just enough to look desperate, luring the enemy closer. On the flagship, Krell bared his teeth. Pathetic, he muttered. They're stalling. They'll beg for mercy soon. But one of his officers hesitated. Commander, their shield performance is unusual, stronger than expected. Do not question me, Krell snapped. They are mammals, soft, break them. The raiders closed their circle tighter, preparing to board. In their arrogance, they didn't see the trap forming around themselves. Inside the Dauntless, Ward finally gave the order. Target their lead ships. Weapons free. The human ship came alive. Panels shifted and hidden weapon ports slid open along the hull. Dozens of railguns and missile launchers roared to life. The first salvo of human fire ripped through space with terrifying speed. 2 Raider ships exploded instantly, torn apart before they could react. On the Raider flagship, the bridge erupted in chaos. What? How? Krell's mandibles clattered in panic as more reports came in. They destroyed the Ver Talon. Shields breached on the Bloodfang. We're losing ships. This wasn't possible. This wasn't how ambushes worked. The prey wasn't supposed to fight back like this. But humans were not prey. On the Dauntless, Captain Ward's voice remained calm as the battle raged. Rotate shields. Fire in staggered volleys. Keep them guessing. His crew moved like one mind. Every shot was deliberate, every maneuver was sharp. The raiders had numbers, but numbers meant nothing against human precision. Ward knew something the raiders didn't. Humans had grown on a death world, a planet where survival was never guaranteed. That history lived in their blood. They were survivors, fighters, and no ambush would change that. The first phase of the battle was over. The trap had been sprung, but not on the humans. It was on the raiders. The battlefield was a storm of fire and broken metal. Where the Ver raiders once believed they held control, now their ships drifted in pieces. The human vessel Dauntless floated in the center, calm like a predator among a school of scattered prey. But the fight was not over. On the Raider flagship, Commander Krell gripped the edges of his command chair. His claws dug into the metal as he stared at the holographic display. The circle formation of his fleet was shattered. 4 of his ships were already destroyed. 3 more were heavily damaged, and the human vessel still held strong. This cannot be, Krell shouted, mandibles rattling with fury. One ship cannot stand against the might of the coalition. His officers trembled but did not dare speak. They too had believed the humans would break easily. Instead, the humans had turned the ambush into a massacre. Krell forced himself to calm. Rage would not win the battle. He leaned forward, eyes glowing with hate. Open a channel to the human. On the Dauntless, the bridge was tense but controlled. Sparks still fell from the ceiling panels where enemy fire had struck, yet the crew moved with steady discipline, their voices sharp and clear. Shields at 62%, Captain, reported Lieutenant Vega. But holding. Good, Captain Ward said. His voice was calm, almost cold. We've bloodied their nose. Now they will try something different. As if on cue, a message request came through. Commander Krell of the Ver Coalition, the computer identified. Ward raised an eyebrow. Put him through. The holographic projector lit up, showing the insectoid raider commander. His armored mandibles clicked angrily as his multifaceted eyes locked on Ward. Human, Krell hissed. You fight well, for a creature so young. To the stars. But your situation is hopeless. My fleet surrounds you. Your ship is damaged. If you surrender now, I may allow some of your crew to live. The human bridge was silent. All eyes turned to Captain Ward. His expression did not change. Slowly, he stepped forward. Krell, Ward said. His voice was steady, controlled. Beneath it was iron. You should understand something. Humans do not surrender. The words hung in the air like a blade. Krell's mandibles opened in disbelief. What did you say? I said, Ward repeated, that you should have chosen another target. You thought you were hunting prey, but you are not the hunters here. We are. The connection cut before Krell could reply. For a moment, silence filled the Vare flagship. The officers shifted uncomfortably. None of them had ever heard prey speak with such certainty. Prey was supposed to beg, to cry, to offer tribute for mercy. Not this. Never this. Krell slammed a claw against the console. Then they will die screaming, "Ready all ships!" Overload their shields with continuous fire. The raiders obeyed. Their surviving vessels moved into tighter formation, pouring firepower into the human ship from all angles. Beams of plasma and kinetic slugs hammered the Dauntless, shaking. It violently on the human bridge. Alarms blared. "Shields down to 40%, Vega shouted. "Compensate power from engines," Ward ordered calmly. "Rotate shield facings. Keep our weapons cycling." The crew obeyed instantly. The Dauntless rolled in space, shifting its shields to absorb the heaviest blows. Its weapons continued to fire, railgun rounds piercing raider armor and missiles, exploding against their flanks. The raiders expected the humans to panic under the pressure. Instead, the humans fought with precision, using every strike like a scalpel rather than a hammer. The battle dragged on. One by one, raider ships fell. The humans never slowed. In the heat of combat, Lieutenant Vega leaned closer to Ward. "Captain, why not retreat? We could break through the weakened line." Ward's eyes stayed fixed on the tactical display. "If we retreat, they will follow us. They will find another helpless target to ambush." "No, Lieutenant. We end it here." There was no hesitation in his tone. Retreat was not an option, not when innocent lives across the sector depended on destroying these raiders once and for all. On the flagship, Krell watched his fleet being torn apart piece by piece. His officers begged for retreat, but he silenced them with a roar. "No, we cannot run from prey. The Coalition's honor is at stake." But deep inside, Krell's confidence wavered. He saw the cold discipline of the humans, the way they fought without fear, without hesitation. They were not like other species. They did not crumble when cornered. They sharpened back on the Dauntless. The crew worked like a single machine. Even as systems flickered and hull plating burned, their focus never broke. "Enemy vessel destroyed," reported a gunner. "Another crippled and drifting," added Vega. Ward nodded. "Good. Keep pressing." Then, as the raider formation began to break, Ward gave an order that made his crew glance at him in surprise. "Hold fire on the retreating ships." "Sir?" Vega asked. "Let them run," Ward said coldly. "But make sure they carry a message. Humanity does not yield." On the flagship, Krell's mandibles shook with fury as his ships scattered. Some exploded under human fire, others fled into the shadows of the asteroid field. His proud ambush fleet was reduced to a handful of survivors. He slammed a fist into his console. "This is not over, human." But even as he shouted, he knew the truth. The ambush had failed. The prey had refused to bow. And worse, the survivors would spread the story. Across the galaxy, whispers would begin, "Humans do not surrender." When the battlefield finally went silent, the Dauntless stood alone among the wreckage. Its hull was scarred, its shields drained, but its spirit was unbroken. Captain Ward stood at the center of the bridge, his crew watching him with pride. He gave a single nod. "Damage control teams, get to work. Prepare a report for command, and set course for the colony. We still have a mission to complete." The crew obeyed, moving quickly. There was no cheering, no celebration. Humans did not fight for glory. They fought to survive, to protect, to endure. As the Dauntless turned away from the burning wrecks, Ward allowed himself one final thought. The raiders had learned a lesson today. The galaxy would learn it soon enough. Humanity does not surrender. The wreckage of broken ships drifted silently in the void. Twisted metal spun among shattered engines, and faint trails of fire faded into nothing. The ambush was over, but the battle was not finished. The Dauntless floated in the center of the graveyard, scarred but unbroken. Its shields flickered weakly and parts of its hull were scorched, yet it still moved with purpose. Inside, the human crew worked with the calm discipline of survivors who knew that survival was not luck. It was earned. "Status report," Captain Ward said, his voice steady. "Shields at 29%, Captain," Lieutenant Vega replied. "Hull integrity stable. Engines operating at 80%. Weapon systems fully functional." Ward's eyes narrowed slightly. Fully functional. That was all he needed. Good. Now, where are they? The tactical officer highlighted the readings. 3 Raider ships retreating into the asteroid belt, another 4 regrouping on the far side. Their flagship is pulling back, but not too far. Ward leaned closer to the display. He knew what that meant. Commander Krell was not fleeing. He was planning. "They're regrouping for another strike," Ward said. The bridge fell silent. Everyone had expected the Raiders to run after their heavy losses, but Raiders were like cornered predators. They could be more dangerous when desperate. Then, Ward said finally, "We hit them first." The Dauntless changed course, engines burning brighter as it moved toward the asteroid belt. "Sir, we're low on shields," Vega warned. "If they hit us hard again," Ward cut him off. "That's why we won't let them." His gaze was sharp, his tone cold. "They ambushed us. Now we ambush them." The crew exchanged quick glances. Humans were outnumbered and damaged, but there was no hesitation in their captain's words. That certainty spread through the crew like fire. They adjusted their stations with renewed focus. The hunter was about to become the hunted. Inside the asteroid field, the Ver Raiders regrouped. On the flagship, Commander Krell paced across the bridge, his mandibles clicking furiously. The loss of half his fleet still burned his pride. He should have crushed the humans easily. Instead, his ships had fallen like brittle shells. But Krell was not ready to flee. "Position the ships behind the larger asteroids," he ordered. "We'll draw the human in close, then strike all at once. This time we will tear them apart." His officers obeyed, though some showed hesitation. They had seen the human ship fight. They had seen its strange tactics, its unbreakable will. But no one dared speak against Krell. Krell sharpened his claws against the arm of his chair. "The humans think themselves strong," he hissed. "We will show them the strength of the coalition. We will drown them in fire." The Dauntless slipped into the asteroid field, lights dimmed to minimum, engines running low. "Enemy ships still in hiding," the tactical officer reported. "They're waiting for us." "Good," Ward said softly. "Let them wait." He studied the asteroids. On the display, the rocks were massive, some the size of cities spinning slowly in the void. Perfect cover, perfect traps, perfect battlefields. Ward tapped the console. "Deploy the drones." Panels on the Dauntless opened, releasing a swarm of small, angular machines. They darted silently into the shadows, invisible on most sensors. Each carried weapons, decoys, and jamming systems. The crew watched as the drones disappeared into the field. "Let's see how they like surprises," Ward murmured. The Raiders prepared their ambush. From behind an asteroid, one of the ships powered up its weapons, aiming at the Dauntless. Its captain grinned, imagining the human vessel breaking under the first volley. But before he could fire, alarms blared. "Unknown contact. Behind us." Then, without warning, a missile slammed into the Raiders' engines. Fire erupted, tearing through the hull. The ship spun wildly, colliding with the very asteroid it had used for cover. The explosion lit up the field. Krell's mandibles snapped open in shock. "What happened?" "Unknown attack, Commander. Our sensors detected nothing. The humans must—" Another alarm, another ship screamed over comms. "We're under fire. Invisible attackers. They're everywhere." The bridge shook with panic. "They've deployed drones," Krell realized, rage boiling in his chest. The humans tricked us. On the Dauntless, Ward watched calmly as his drone struck. 2 enemy ships neutralized, reported the tactical officer. Excellent, Ward replied. Press the attack. Herd the survivors toward us. The drone swarmed, weaving between asteroids, striking and vanishing. The raiders fired wildly, their shots slamming into rocks, missing their hidden targets. Confusion spread through their fleet. Ships collided as they tried to escape phantom attacks. Their tight formation crumbled. That was when the Dauntless moved. Engage. Main weapons, Ward ordered. Railguns roared. Missiles streaked, and the human ship tore into the fractured enemy fleet. One raider vessel exploded in a ball of fire. Another lost its shields and drifted helplessly, waiting for the killing blow. Ward gave it without hesitation. On the flagship, Krell felt panic claw at his mind. The trap was gone. The ambush was destroyed. His fleet was dying around him. Pull back, he screamed. All ships retreat to the outer edge. But it was too late. The humans were already in their midst. The Dauntless cut through the raider formation like a blade, weapons firing with brutal accuracy. Drones darted in every direction, confusing the enemy, forcing them into the open. On the human bridge, Lieutenant, Vega's eyes widened as he watched the chaos. Captain, they're breaking. They're completely breaking. Ward's expression didn't change. Good. Don't let a single one escape without remembering who broke them. The battle turned into a slaughter. Raider ships that once prowled the stars as predators now fled in terror. But every escape route was cut off by human drones or the Dauntless itself. One by one they were hunted down. The void burned with explosions. At last only the flagship remained. Krell stared at the display, his claws shaking. His proud fleet was gone. Only his ship stood, and even that was cornered. Then the human appeared on his screen again. Captain Ward's calm face filled the bridge of the raider flagship. Krell, Ward said coldly, your ambush has failed. Your fleet is gone. You have one choice left, run or die here. Krell snarled, mandibles flaring. Humans, you think you are strong, but you are nothing. You will learn fear. Ward's eyes narrowed. We are not the ones who should be afraid. The transmission cut. Seconds later, the Dauntless opened fire. The flagship shook violently as missiles and railgun rounds tore into its armor. Fires spread across the decks. Systems failed one by one. Krell screamed orders, but it was no use. His officers fled. His crew abandoned their posts. The humans had broken them completely. And as the final barrage struck, the flagship exploded in a blinding flash. Silence returned to the asteroid field. Only the Dauntless remained, its drone slowly returning to dock. On the bridge, the crew sat in quiet awe. They had survived the ambush. They had turned the trap against their enemies. They had destroyed the coalition fleet. Lieutenant Vega finally broke the silence. Captain, what now? Ward looked at the wreckage, his expression unreadable. Now, he said softly, the galaxy will learn what happens when you ambush a human ship. The crew nodded. They understood. This was not just a battle, this was a message. The void of space was littered with fire and debris. The remnants of the Ver Coalition fleet drifted among the asteroids, burning and broken. Twisted hulls, shattered shields, and drifting escape pods marked the destruction. Where once a proud raider armada had hunted confidently, now silence hung heavy. Captain Elias Ward of the Dauntless observed the battlefield from the command deck, his eyes scanning every flicker of energy on the tactical display. His ship was scarred and battered. Sparks fell from damaged panels. Alarms still hummed faintly in the background, but the humans were still alive, still in control. Status report, Ward said, his voice calm but commanding. Shield stable at 45%, Lieutenant, Vega answered. Hull integrity holding at 78%, engines fully operational, drones returning. Ward nodded. Good, let's finish this, no loose ends. Across the battlefield, the remaining raider ships had regrouped in desperation. Only a handful survived, their crews terrified and disorganized. Commander Krell's flagship remained, but it floated like a wounded predator, weakened, surrounded, and cornered. Krell bared his mandibles in frustration. We've suffered loss, but one ship remains, If we strike together, we can still take the human down. His remaining captains shifted nervously. Each knew the human had destroyed half their fleet already. Each had seen the Dauntless move with uncanny precision. But Krell would not admit defeat. Pride demanded one last stand. "Form the wedge," Krell ordered. "Surround it. Fire at will. Let it burn." The remaining ships moved like jagged shadows across the void, weapons primed and glowing with energy. They believed sheer numbers could overcome human skill. But humans were not like other prey. Inside the Dauntless, Ward studied the approaching raiders. His fingers tapped the tactical display, tracing paths through the asteroids. He didn't panic. He didn't rush. He waited. Patience was a weapon as powerful as any railgun or missile. "Captain, they're closing fast," Vega said, tension rising in her voice. "Let them," Ward replied quietly. "We've fought worse and survived. They've learned nothing from the last attack." Ward's mind raced, calculating angles, distances, and timing. He gave precise orders and the crew moved like a single unit, each action fluid and controlled. "Prepare countermeasures. Drones in position. Weapons online. Wait for my signal." The crew obeyed without question. They had trained for this, for battles where survival depended not on firepower alone, but on thinking faster than the enemy, acting faster than the enemy, and never showing fear. The first strike came fast. The raiders unleashed a barrage of plasma, bolts and missiles. Light flared across the asteroids as energy slammed into shields. The Dauntless shook, sparks flew, but it held. The shields absorbed the worst of the damage and the human crew worked quickly to redistribute power. "Shields at 20%, Vega shouted. "Rotate facing, divert power to front arrays," Ward ordered. The human ship shifted just enough to redirect the brunt of the assault. The raiders expected panic. Instead, they saw precision. The Dauntless fired back, not wildly but deliberately. Missiles launched from hidden ports struck the flanks of two raider vessels, tearing through hulls. Railgun rounds penetrated shields, leaving one ship drifting. Helplessly, Commander Krell hissed in rage. How can one ship fight like this?" Ward watched the chaos unfold. His drones moved like ghosts through the debris field, striking enemy ships from angles they could not anticipate. One vessel collided with an asteroid while trying to evade invisible attacks. Another lost engines under a precise missile strike. 2 ships destroyed, the tactical officer reported. "Good," Ward said. "Push forward. Herd the survivors where we want them." The human ship advanced into the center of the asteroid belt, where the terrain worked in their favor. Large rocks, spinning slowly, created natural barriers that limited enemy movement. The remaining raiders were trapped in a maze, their formations broken, their coordination gone. Krell's flagship fired wildly, hoping to damage the human ship. But the Dauntless anticipated every attack, weaving through cover, using drones, and weapons to force Krell into vulnerable positions. The humans were relentless. They did not hesitate. They did not fear. Every movement was calculated, every strike precise. Suddenly, one of the raider ships tried to break free, fleeing toward the edge of the field. The human crew anticipated the move instantly. "Target the fleeing ship," Ward ordered. "Lock trajectory, fire." Missiles struck before the raider could escape, tearing through engines. The ship drifted into an asteroid, exploding in a ball of fire that reflected off the nearest rocks. Vega's voice trembled slightly. "Captain, they're losing everything." Ward did not answer. His eyes were fixed on Krell. The flagship moved slowly, trying to keep distance, but the Dauntless was closing in, ready to strike the final blow. Krell snarled, mandibles flaring with anger. "We will not fall without taking them with us." He ordered a desperate maneuver, pushing his ship into a firing run directly at the human vessel. Plasma beams streaked toward the Dauntless, and explosions lit the darkness of space. Ward did not flinch. "Prepare point defense. Activate all countermeasures." The ship's shields flared, absorbing the worst of the impact. Human railguns fired, tearing through the flagship's armor. Drones swarmed around, striking at weak points. Fires spread across the alien vessel. Krell realized too late. This was not just a fight for survival. This was annihilation. The The flagship shook violently under continuous human fire. Systems failed, lights flickered, Krell's crew panicked, unable to maintain control. "Brace for impact," Krell roared, but it was meaningless. With one final precise strike, the Dauntless unleashed a barrage of missiles and railgun fire. The flagship's hull split, tearing apart from the inside. Explosions consumed the ship, breaking it into fragments that drifted slowly into the void. Silence followed. The Dauntless remained, alone and unbroken among the wreckage. The asteroid field, once filled with the roar of battle, was now quiet except for the faint hum of the human ship's engines and the distant glow of fires from destroyed raider ships. On the human bridge, Ward allowed himself a moment of relief, though his expression remained calm. His crew, exhausted but proud, looked around. They had destroyed an entire raider fleet. Every single ship that had dared ambush them was now gone. Lieutenant Vega finally spoke. "Captain, it's over. They're all gone." Ward shook his head slightly, almost imperceptibly. "Not just gone. They've learned a lesson. Never ambush a human ship. Never underestimate us. That is the message they will carry." The crew understood. This battle was not only about survival, it was about reputation. Across the galaxy, stories would spread of a single human ship that had destroyed an entire armada. Outside Kama, the Dauntless drifted among the wreckage, silent and vigilant. Ward knew the galaxy would remember this moment. The Vare Coalition had believed themselves unstoppable. They had believed humans were weak. They were wrong. And humanity had made them pay. As the human ship set course for the next sector, engines glowing steadily, Ward allowed himself a small thought, quiet but sharp. They will never forget the day they ambushed a human ship and faced obliteration. The crew of the Dauntless returned to their stations, checking systems, patching hull breaches, and preparing for the journey ahead. Even in victory, humans were disciplined. There was always another mission, another challenge. Survival was never finished. The wreckage floated silently in the void, a graveyard of the Vare Coalition fleet. Twisted metal, drifting escape pods, and broken hulls glimmered in the light of distant stars. The battle was over. The humans had survived. The raiders had been annihilated. Yet, the Dauntless did not celebrate. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge, watching the remnants of the enemy fleet. His ship bore scars, its hull burned and scratched from the relentless assault, but it floated steadily. Behind him, the crew moved with quiet purpose, checking systems, tending to minor fires, and preparing the vessel for travel. "Status report," Ward said. Lieutenant Vega spoke, her voice calm but tired. "Shield stable at 60%. Hull. Repairs underway. Weapons operational, all drones recovered. No crew casualties." Ward nodded. "Good. Begin scanning for survivors among the wreckage. We leave no one alive to rebuild this fleet without consequences." The surviving raider ships were few, battered, and demoralized. Those who had managed to escape drifted toward nearby asteroid fields or the far edges of the sector. Many were transmitting messages of defeat, unable to hide the truth. One human ship had destroyed an entire armada. Across the galaxy, news spread slowly at first. A few independent merchants, observers, and scouts picked up the story. A human ship destroyed the Vare fleet? Whispers traveled from one star system to another. The humans did not need to broadcast it themselves. The story carried itself. Weeks later, in distant sectors, alien fleets paused their patrols. Councils of various species convened to discuss the report. Some scoffed initially. Humans were young, untested. But as the reports piled up, the reality became undeniable. Captain Ward's name, and the name of the Dauntless, began to inspire awe and fear. The humans had done what no one expected. They had survived the ambush. They had destroyed the raiders. They had turned a trap into a victory. Back on the Dauntless, Ward studied the stars, plotting the course to the next sector where human colonies and allies awaited news of the battle. He was not concerned with glory or fame. Humanity's strength was not in boasting, it was in action. Lieutenant Vega approached him quietly. Captain, the message is spreading faster than we thought. Entire fleets are reconsidering patrols and routes. Some are even standing down. Ward's expression remained calm. Let them. The galaxy must learn that humans do not surrender, and humans do not forgive an ambush. Let them remember that a single ship can turn the tide of war. In the aftermath of the battle, the Dauntless passed through regions where raiders had previously ruled unchecked. Survivors of those territories whispered stories of the human vessel. Tales grew with each retelling. The humans did not panic. They did not hesitate. They were precise and unrelenting. For alien species who had hunted without fear, these tales were unsettling. If a single human ship could destroy an entire armada, what might a fleet of humans achieve? Meanwhile, Ward's crew worked with quiet determination. Systems were repaired, hull damage patched, and weapons recalibrated. There was no celebration, only preparation. Humans fought to survive and to protect others. There was always a mission waiting, always someone relying on them. Captain, Vega said, we're approaching the human outpost. They'll want a full report. Ward nodded. Prepare the data logs, include the enemy formations, weapon patterns, tactics, and prepare a message for command. The Ver Coalition has learned its lesson. The message was simple, concise, and deadly. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not forgive. Humanity survives. As the Dauntless entered the orbit of the outpost, the crew noticed the shift in attitude among the alien species who monitored communications. Fleets slowed there, patrols councils reconsidered old strategies, and some factions even canceled planned raids. Fear of humans was spreading, tempered with respect. Ward looked at his crew and allowed himself a small smile. This was not victory for pride. This was a statement. Humanity had proven that even one ship, one determined crew, could turn the tide and send a warning across the stars. The galaxy is changing, Vega said quietly. Ward nodded. Yes, and humans will shape that change. Always. Within weeks, stories of the Dauntless became legendary. Independent scout ships, traders, and even enemy scouts passed on tales of how the human ship had destroyed the Ver Armada. Artists began to draw depictions, strategists analyzed tactics, and commanders of alien fleets reconsidered their assumptions. The battle had done more than destroy the raiders. It had altered the perception of humans across the galaxy. No longer were they considered weak, unpredictable, or untested. They were survivors. They were warriors. They were dangerous beyond expectation. Even Commander Krell's surviving captains spread the story, shamed and fearful. Across the galaxy, every pirate, raider, or opportunist reconsidered the risk of engaging humans. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Ward prepared to log the final report. His crew gathered, silent but attentive. They had survived impossible odds, destroyed the enemy, and sent a message stronger than any weapon. Prepare to transmit to command, Ward said. The crew worked efficiently, compiling data, tactical reports, and recordings of the battle. Ward watched the stars. The galaxy was vast and humans were still few in number, but each act of courage, each battle won, added to their legacy. Transmit now, Ward commanded. The message went out. Across the human colonies and fleets, the transmissions spread. The logs were simple, factual, and terrifying to those who would underestimate humanity. Every strategy, every move, every attack, an undeniable proof of human skill and resilience. And with that, humanity's reputation grew. In the days that followed, fleets of humans prepared for patrols in sectors previously considered dangerous. Enemy fleets hesitated when approaching human territories. Traders and civilians began to feel safer under human protection. Humanity's presence was no longer a quiet shadow. It was a force to be reckoned with. Across the galaxy, whispers turned into warnings. Do not ambush a human ship. Do not underestimate humans. Humanity fights like no other. Ward watched the reports of alien reactions with quiet satisfaction. Not for glory, not for fame, but because the galaxy had learned an essential truth. Humans survived. Humans adapted. Humans destroyed those who tried to kill them without cause. The Dauntless resumed its journey through the stars. The crew was tired but vigilant. Every system was checked, every weapon tested, and every crew member accounted for. They knew the galaxy was watching now. The Vare coalition was gone, but other enemies would take note. "Captain," Vega said, "do you think they'll try again?" Ward shook his head. "Not soon. They'll remember today, and if anyone else tries, we'll be ready. Humans do not surrender. Humans do not forgive. And humans never forget." The Dauntless glided into the void, leaving the remnants of the battle behind. Fires flickered on broken ships drifting silently, a stark reminder of the price of underestimating humans. And across the stars, the galaxy would never forget. Humanity had delivered its message. One ship, one crew, an entire fleet shattered. The legend of the Dauntless had begun.